Hello and welcome to Camp Extras. Star Wars is one of those things you can't escape in life. It has infected everything from the way people speak, TV, books, and of course gaming. I love Star Wars and I love the PSP, so why don't we combine these two things and talk about Star Wars PSP games? I put this list together of every Star Wars PSP game and let me go through each one in release order. All footage was captured off of a PSP, and let's go ahead and hop into this one. The first ever Star Wars game on the PSP was Star Wars Battlefront 2, the port of the Battlefront series sequel, released alongside its console counterparts on November 1st, 2005 in North America. The console version of this game is fantastic in my eyes. I love that game's setup, and I think it's a blast, and I actually used to get a kick out of this game on the PSP. I played a lot of it, and looking back at my opinions then, I would have said it was a good port. But going back to it now, I can't say the same thing. The bones of the game are here. It's all of the setup and modes of the console version. You play one of many troops on a battlefield, and you need to capture points and kill enemies to whittle down how many respawns the other team has. Once those things are done, you win and that's it. The gameplay modes here are fun, and the way the game is played is a good time. I have zero issues with the game itself. I don't even mind the controls. PSP third-person controls are just one of those odd things you get used to. To look around, you use the face buttons and move with the stick. It's not perfect, but you can get it done, and I'll say it handles fine for a PSP game. The element that brings this game down, though, is the graphics. This game attempts to run a Battlefront-like game, but the pop-in is atrocious. You can barely see anything ahead of you, and moving through some of the game's dark environments is a pain. I think this was all done in an attempt to keep the maps similar to the console version, but I believe that only hurts the game. I prefer smaller maps in favor of better draw distances and look. One nice addition we get here is a challenge mode though, which offers small challenges such as beating 100 enemies, which is a nice little touch to give you something different. A lot is retained, such as the ability to play as Jedi heroes in the Conquest mode, which tasks you with taking out planets. There is at least content here to keep you playing, and back in the day, I thought this was completely fine. Now I feel like it's much easier to just play the console version of this game and enjoy it, and this is just a lesser version of Battlefront 2. Speaking of lesser versions of console games, let's talk about LEGO Star Wars 2: The Original Trilogy. This one came out in North America on September 12th, 2006. This was an old favorite of mine back in the day on the Xbox. The Original Trilogy has always been my favorite of Star Wars, and getting to explore those worlds in LEGO form is truly an enjoyable experience. Although I had never played this game on the PSP, and this was my opportunity to try it, and it's neat. Similar to Battlefront 2, this is an attempt to distill the original console experience and make it work on a portable device. But here, it succeeds. It's noticeably worse looking with a light haze to it and a weaker frame rate, but I'd say the game works well here. It looks just like the console counterpart and contains the same content, which I find surprisingly intuitive for an early release on the PSP. This is a game full of content, and achieving that 100% is a lengthy task, and it's all here for you. I think it works well here on the PSP because it's the type of game that you can play in small increments, turning it on and turning it off when you need to. The game plays well on the PSP since a second stick isn't needed to control the camera. You just move, attack, build, and do some puzzles. It's all intuitive, and it's an excellent choice for kids, but it also has an addictive quality that appeals to adults. It's a formula that has worked since the LEGO game's inception, and there's a reason it's still in use today. It's simple, easy, and fun, and seeing some incredible movies in this odd format makes it a delight. This is one of those times where the PSP captures the same magic as the console when the game is essentially the same. The visuals may be worse, but they never get in the way of the gameplay. It still manages to be a solid and fun game, and it's one of my favorites on today's list, and would make for a good pickup for the console. Next was Star Wars Lethal Alliance, which was released on December 5th, 2006. It was developed and published by Ubisoft and is based on an original concept set between episodes 3 and 4. I fully played through this one back in the day, and I remember feeling lukewarm about it, and I can't say that I love it today as well. There's some things that I do enjoy about it, and I do think it's cool we get a completely original story exclusive to handhelds at this time. In this game, you play as a Twilight named Rihanna, along with her droid pal Zio. You two work together to take down the Empire led by various Star Wars staples, including Leia, and also Kyle Katarn from the Jedi Knight series. The plot is simple, but it is one of the game's better aspects. I like Star Wars stories that don't feel like they have to be Jedi-centered, and here it's all about platforming and action across the galaxy. The action in this one is well developed. You move around areas, shoot, and do melee attacks. You can also send out Zio to stun enemies. It works well, though I won't say it's perfectly fluid, yet it's dynamic enough to keep enemy encounters fresh and varied. The platforming is rough though. Not that it's poorly designed, it's just uninteresting. It has you jumping onto specific points, and it's all based on quick time presses. Just time the jumps, and that's it. It could have been so much better, but instead it's a weak and easy system. Along with elements like hanging off ceilings with Zio, which have no flair, it makes for some uninteresting gameplay. The game's look is excellent though, and the environments you travel to are clean and evoke the feeling of the original trilogy, with bright lights and nice color design. The game is laid out linearly, but it's full of small details and is genuinely a fun experience to explore. I think that along with the story, that makes this game interesting to play, and if you're a Star Wars fan, it might be worth it. Yet for a casual fan, the platforming is poor and results in some weak sections. I wouldn't say it's a bad game though, just flawed, and there's definitely far worse to come. Next up is Star Wars Battlefront Renegade Squadron. It was released on October 9th, 2007 in North America as a PlayStation portable exclusive. This one was all over the place because it became a pack-in title with PSPs after this point, and it was also a big deal because it marked a new entry for a beloved series and was exclusive to this handheld, which isn't the last handheld Battlefront of this list. Renegade Squadron is a significant improvement over Battlefront 2 on the PSP, but not for the console version. I think that's because it's not trying to take the console experience and put it onto this handheld that couldn't handle it, but tailoring a release around the series formula specifically for the PSP. For one, that means that the look of this game is far superior. The setting and locations all pop with solid lighting and excellent colors. It's a seriously solid looking game for the console, and it makes a world of difference. Another upgrade here is that along with the standard mode, you get a full campaign. Although it is a bit short, it does have cutscenes and it allows you to follow a plot alongside the battles, which is something I appreciate. There's also changes to the gameplay that give it a little more spice. Here you can go to any point that you control on the battlefield and change your gear. You have a certain amount of weight you can hold, but you can pick and choose what weapons or equipment like a jetpack you can use. Getting this choice of different things that you can have gives you a significant advantage if used at the right time. The controls aren't perfect though, but they have improved. The camera moves with your character, and now you lock on with the left trigger, then shoot. It does make shooting and killing enemies much easier, but it does take away some freedom from looking around. Yet I will take smoother gameplay over that any day. On top of that, you can customize your characters, and I think overall it's just a better feeling and looking game. It's a solid Star Wars game on the PSP, and it's much better than 2, and it might actually be the best Battlefront entry on the PSP. Next is Star Wars The Force Unleashed, which is the handheld version of the console game. Chrome Studios released this version on September 16th, 2008 in North America, and I recently completed a full playthrough of the console version of Force Unleashed, so I'm very familiar with the game at the moment, and the console version is a fun but flawed Star Wars game. and the same holds true for the PSP one. The game follows the same plotline as that game, where Darth Vader discovers a young Jedi named Starkiller, whom he takes under his wing and uses him to kill off the remaining Jedi after Episode 3. This is another game on the PSP that takes place between both trilogies, which makes sense as that was the next logical step forward after the release of the prequel trilogy. The plot is solid here, and it feels like a nice, typical Star Wars plot with Starkiller being nice and angsty, like Anakin. It's relayed well here with cutscenes reminiscent of the console game. I'm surprised by how well the gameplay is translated into this though. I was suspecting that all the Force powers wouldn't get as much use here, but you get it all here and it's handled really well. You run through levels using your lightsaber and push around all kinds of objects with the Force. The controls and range of movement for these are surprisingly solid. The spaces are a lot smaller and the number of objects is not a lot, but I think that works in favor of the game. The general destruction that you deal feels good, and you do feel the lasting damage around you, and it doesn't have to feel huge. Movement and action are all done surprisingly well, along with the platforming. The graphics look solid for the PSP too. It does experience some frame rate issues when the areas do get larger, and there is definitely a bit of haze on screen, but it looks solid, and the amount of detail added to the different areas of this game is well done. Though the bad QuickTime events do hurt this game a little bit, just like its console version, I think this game is a valiant effort. It's a nice console port that respects the console's limitations while not holding back too much. Next was Star Wars: The Clone Wars Republic Heroes, which was released on the PSP and other consoles on October 6, 2009. It's another one made by Chrome Studios, yet unlike Force Unleashed, this is not a well-done game. This is the worst game on today's list and is a complete slog in terms of gameplay. One positive I can say is that the plot is at least here. I have only ever seen the movie for the Clone Wars show and maybe some clips around the internet, so I'm not completely familiar with the show, yet I can tell the voice acting, characters, and dialogue are like the show. The cutscenes play out well, and the banter between characters is well done. I'm surprised how much story is crammed down into this game, and it offers a good amount of plot. I could see this being one reason you can play this game. The gameplay is pretty abysmal though. The combat is slow and unintuitive. It's also a bit boring in design, where you go from one open area to another, kill some waves of enemies, and you repeat that. It's playable to some degree, but it's never fun. Never really giving you a good tool set and moves with the combat. The platforming is truly the worst part. Think of Lethal Alliance's button pressing platforming, but it doesn't work here. You latch on the edges and jump, but I had so many occurrences where jumps just wouldn't stick and I'd fall right through surfaces. This type of platforming should be quick and easy, but it never works properly. On top of that, this game just runs poorly with a poor frame rate, and the look of this game is a bit rough when you're in the gameplay sections. It just doesn't feel well optimized or thought out. Like I said, they do the plot and cutscenes right here, but it's just not fun to play. And that's the most important element of any game, and it becomes the weakest game on today's list.
Don't get fancy, Snip.
It's just my style, Sky-Guy. Charge them!
Next was Star Wars Battlefront Elite Squadron, which was released on November 3rd, 2009 in North America. I always thought this one was a PSP exclusive, but it also got a DS release. This is the final entry in the Battlefront series, and compared to the last entry, I think there's some trade-offs, but a lot of things are improved here. For one, it's the same gameplay where you move on battlefields and you take over points. Yet here it has more of an emphasis on interconnected battlefields, like ones where you can transition to space from the ground. It's ambitious, and I think it opens up a lot of gameplay variety. You get this in the instant action, galactic conquest, and other modes that you've seen from the past entries, but you do get a nice heroes and villains mode. You get to face off against all types of Jedi characters, and it's an all-out deathmatch. I don't think it's as exciting after the first time playing it, because the gameplay generally is the same every time, but it's a fun addition. The campaign has been overhauled here to adopt a more story-like approach. You get a plot where you play a clone trooper who takes part in major Star Wars battles. It's a bit more visceral and features a linear design. I think it's neat, but my biggest issue here is that the controls were better in the last game. It's relatively the same controlling, where there is less camera control and you lock on the enemies, yet here it's very stiff. Looking around and finding enemies feels very slow and not fluid. I think this makes the gameplay less enjoyable. The same good gameplay design is present though, and I think the game's look is excellent. This is a top-of-the-line PSP release and it looks crisp on the PSP screen. I never get tired of exploring Star Wars worlds and all of its variety. I believe there is a lot to like about this game, but I did find Rogue Squadron to be more entertaining. Yet this is far better than Battlefront 2 here, which was an awful looking game. And I think this is a perfectly fun game that's worth seeking out.
Of the Federation. The CIS has captured a command post.
The final Star Wars game was LEGO Star Wars 3 The Clone Wars, which was released on March 22, 2011 in North America. A late release for the PSP because the Vita was on the horizon the following year. From what I know, this game takes events of the movie and some of the show and adapts it into a LEGO game. It seems like it had been a little bit since there was a LEGO Star Wars game, and this might have been the right move. I should definitely check out the show. I know it has many fans, but let me know if I should give it a try. This LEGO game feels somewhat distinct when compared to other LEGO games. The first one on the list was a straightforward LEGO game where you run through larger levels, break up objects, and solve puzzles. This has that, but it's a lot smaller in comparison. The levels themselves are tight and broken up by many different sections. Instead of switching between different LEGO characters by walking up to them, now you can change them on the fly. This is where the basis of your puzzles come from, where you need to swap to a character with the correct moveset in order to move on. It's a similar design and setup that I felt was prevalent with children's games at this time, and it's a bit tired. I certainly don't think it's a bad game. There is plenty of fun here. I think the controls are solid, and it's overall a smooth feeling game. But the puzzles are pretty simple. I feel like in some LEGO games, the puzzles have some thought behind them, but here it's generally just jumping at the right time or aiming a certain weapon that a character has at the right area. It's the type of game that the more and more you play it, you notice the game design isn't reinventing itself or doing something fresh, so it becomes tired. Though it is well made in design, there's nothing fundamentally wrong here, it's just a tad uninteresting. I do think the look of the game is great, and it's nice to see something a bit different from these LEGO games. The settings are nice to look at and they're bright. You get to see some cartoony designs for things since it's based on a cartoon. There's also some good humor thrown in here, especially in the audio. All of the droids have their classic lines like Roger, Roger, which always gets a kick out of me, and it's the same with Yoda's death noise. It's all around a fine effort for a LEGO game on the PSP, but I found it to be a bit bland. At least it wasn't a bad end for Star Wars games on the PSP. But that was the last Star Wars game on the PSP, and that wraps it up for today. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like and subscribe, and also be sure to check out my main channel, Camp Xbox, for specifically retro Xbox content, and be sure to comment below with what your favorite was from today's list, or if there's one that you're really interested in. I'd love to hear from you, but I'll see you here next time at Camp Xtras.